With the anticipated release of Drake's Iceman album sometime in this fourth quarter of 2025, the Drake versus Kendrick Lamar beef will again start to lead the way in the hip-hop media cycle, as many anticipate Drake to officially and finally address not only the battle, but how he plans to move forward with his career and whether he will accept responsibility not only for his loss in the battle, but for starting this whole beef in the first place. Now, just in case he cannot do that and admit that he has been hating on Kendrick for a while, there are many of us in hip-hop media who are covering the start of this beef and will help him refresh his memory and the memory of so many fans and OV hoes alike. Let's get into it. All right, let me shout out. All right, let's get right into it. First, let me shout out user Waddell from Twitter/X, aka Bozo's Touch. He's the reason I'm doing this video. He hit me up with a tweet saying, Professor Lex, you should do a video on how the beef actually started between Drake and Dot. No one has ever covered it right. Everyone thinks it started with Control, but it didn't. First, it started when Dot went to Who Kids radio show and laughed at Drake getting dissed by DMX. Then MTV gave the hottest MC to Dot on March 7th of 2013. Drake dropped 5 a.m. in Toronto that night and dissed Dot on MTV. Then June 22nd, 2013, Drake and Cole dropped the Jodeci freestyle dissing Dot and MTV. The Control verse was Dot's response. Now, of course, I added a couple words in there, but that is the gist of, and that's the perfect timeline, right? But it starts, I'm gonna start a little bit before that, and then we're gonna get into exactly the timeline that Waddell laid down there. Now, first I wanna give a shout out to, I seen a video by Glasses Malone. I seen a video by Jeremy from the Bigger Picture podcast, I think it's called, with Elliot Wilson and DJ Head. They both did videos on covering this timeline as well, but I wanna start with this image right here, because this image is the start of the relationship between Young Money, Cash Money, and TDE, right? This is Lil Wayne featured on J-Rock's record, All My Life, right? This is why Kendrick ends up on tour with Drake and they end up doing collaborations. This relationship here, right? Drake was not in any kind of power position when he took Kendrick on tour with him. That is a little bit of revisionist history because of what Drake became in his position now, right? At that time, A$AP Rocky, Kendrick Lamar, and Drake were all up-and-coming young star rappers, right? This is the blog era, and the blogs pretty much determined who was next up as far as hip-hop mainstream and attention was concerned, right? So these were three names. Drake already more established. He started first. I'm gonna say that Drake's career started around 2007, 2008 as far as popularity is concerned. The So Far Gone mixtape, et cetera, right? So when Kendrick dropped Section 80, which again was the hottest mixtape out, again, it was called a mixtape at that time. I think it still is labeled as a mixtape for the most part. He was next up, right? A$AP Rocky, A$AP Mob, they were next up. So there was a lot of moving parts around hip hop. This was a very big time in hip hop for new stars, so to speak. So there was no power play by Drake trying to help out the younger rappers by doing features, okay? The labels are gonna put the features together most of the time, especially with their younger acts, as Drake and Kendrick both were, right? TDE was just starting out as a label, period, even though J-Rock released Come Home With Me, I believe, in like 2008, 2009. But TDE has the backing of Dr. Dre, Interscope, etc. So there is no little dog in this situation, so to speak, right? There's two up-and-coming young MCs who are killing the game. Now, I've seen theories that there were disses on the collaborations of the Buried Alive interlude on Take Care, which is Drake's album, and the Poetic Justice collaboration on Kendrick's Good Kid, Mad City album. There are no disses. There's no reason to diss. There's not this. They didn't like each other from the beginning. They didn't know each other, okay? And most industry people, I've heard Joe Budden say this 1,000 times. These people are not friends. They come together through collaborations, through business dealings. Most of these features are business dealings, don't get it twisted, that are set up and negotiated most of the time through the labels. The label approves who features on your albums and your songs. No matter how buddy-buddy you are with somebody, the label has to approve who's going to be approved for features and studio sessions and studio times to record on a project that they're funding. All right. Now, in hindsight, yes, you can pull certain things and twist it and make it seem like they were dissing each other before the MTV's 2013 hottest MCs list. Enter Sway Calloway. Now, I'm not blaming this on Sway at all. Sway was just the lead moderator and the head of this list, as Sway had a big position at MTV at the time, I believe. Sway is one of the leaders in hip hop media, period. If you a hip hop fan, you know this already. Now, there's a few moving pieces here as far as Drake's animosity towards this list, right? And it's very simple. It's very human. It's very normal. It's not all this conspiracy type situation. It's simply this. The year before, in 2012, which was for the year of 2011, Drake was number 2. Now, the 2013 list is for the year of 2012, which was the year Kendrick dropped Good Kid, Mad City. So that's fresh on everybody's mind. And again, Kendrick was the quote unquote hottest MC at the time, right? But Drake, I guess we know he's entitled by now. Number 2 the previous year, the natural trajectory in his mind is that he will be number 1 the next year. Here's the problem. Drake did not release an album in 2012. Now, Take Care was released in November of 2011, but that's not going to get you the hottest MCs list of 2012 when Kendrick released Good Kid, Mad City in October of 2012, and it blew up the way it did. But now if we get into the mindset of Drake, Sway Calloway is from the Bay Area in California, right? The Sway and Tech show started many years ago on the West Coast, big time hip hop West Coast radio show, right? But I don't think that has anything to do with Kendrick Lamar being voted the number 1 hottest MC list. But the reason I put Houseway in there, because I noticed one thing that's interesting is that Drake has never interviewed with Sway. And most MCs, almost every MC, has had at least one interview with Sway, whether it be on the Sway and Tech Morning Show or whether it be on the Shade 45 radio show with Heather Beat, Sirius Satellite radio show. And it is probably from him holding a grudge about this list, right? He appeared on Shade 45 on Rap Radar around this time. I think it was before any of this happened, like around 2011. So I don't think it's a Shade 45 thing, as though some rappers don't appear on Shade 45 because it's owned by Eminem and all of that. But, you know, shout out to Jay-Z. But it is a business competition and an ego thing as well amongst these MCs, which is what this is really all about. It's just about Drake's ego, okay? The next 2 records would be diss records, which 5 a.m. in Toronto, again, was recorded the night of the list being dropped. That's why it's 5 a.m. in Toronto the next day, or damn near the next day. But if we look at the timeline here on the screen, okay, March 4th is where MTV announced the first 5 of the list, so 10 through 6. And then I think March 6th, I couldn't really find the exact date, but I think the day after or a couple days after, they dropped the bottom 5, right? As you see, the blogs picked it up and they report on it on the 7th. Very early in the morning on the 7th, Drake releases 5 a.m. in Toronto in response to the list. I believe the list was released on the evening of the 6th. So he got right to it, which is what you're supposed to do if you're an MC. You got something to say, you express yourself, you get to the booth, you go to the booth. This was when Drake was really in his MC rapper bag. He wasn't a superstar yet at all. But in the lyrics to this song and in the lyrics to Jodeci Freestyle, which we're going to get into next, he's claiming it. And he did what he said he was going to do from a career standpoint, for sure. So there's no hate. I'm not hating on him at all. Is there shade? Yes, because at this point, I don't like who he is. But let's continue with the timeline. So then a couple months later, Drake and J. Cole get together on the Jodeci Freestyle, which is released on June 22nd of 2013. Now, Kendrick is celebrating his hottest MCs list and not really tripping on anything. Now, Drake was not the only one who had an issue with the hottest MCs list. Let's go through some comments and some quotes. Now, Kanye West had this to say: "Number 7 bothers me. I feel like for them to put me at number 7, they had to bring up things they didn't like. It's definitely not about a body of work. Possibly it could be about overall rap MC swag. What happens with these types of judges and the people that review it, when I come in and I have the pink polo and the backpack and I'm checking all the boxes that A Tribe Called Quest era and Jay Dilla and all that, They want to champion it. On the flip side, however, they don't like Givenchy Kanye. They don't like Kanye in a kilt. They don't like Kanye in a relationship. And there is some truth to that, right? But again, there's a lot of critique of the list. The list was a big deal. ASAP Rocky commented, "It's frustrating when I'm number 8. Don't put me at all. I need to be number 1. I'ma come clean." Even Soulja Boy has something to say. "That new MTV list is some BS. It has no credibility and the judge panel had no passion. It was fixed and biased. Next year though." And I don't think Soulja made it next year either, but shout out to Soulja Boy. Now let's get to Kendrick's reaction to it. "You know what's crazy? We were looking at the years of the different MCs and we were always like, man, we gotta get on there. We gotta get on the list. But to make it to number 1, that's a whole nother thing." He also continued, "It's very important for hip hop. I love that they have debates like that. We need that. A lot of people forget out here, even though we doing these collaborations and stuff like that and we cool, at the same time, this is still rap. It's still competitive and I'm trying to compete with everybody to be the best. And that's how I feel everybody else should think about it. When people feel like they need to make their comments, I feel that's needed. You're supposed to feel like you're the best because if you don't, you're gonna get stepped on because it's a jungle out there." So there's no reason for Kendrick to have any animosity about anybody feeling like they should have been number 1 on the list. The animosity is coming from one side and one side only. That is Drake, that is J. Cole, and that is their prerogative. Now, I believe part of the reason that Drake had such a problem with this is that the Nothing Was the Same album is on the way, right? So he's going on a press run for the Nothing Was the Same album. This kind of interrupts that in his eyes, so to speak. Again, this is in his eyes, right? This is about 2012. Okay, the Nothing Was the Same album, I don't think was slated to release until 2014. So again, is he doing too much? In my opinion, yes, he is. Let the list be the list and move on. You were number 2 last year. I believe he was number 5 on this list with no official release of an album. So is he in his ego a little bit? Yes, he is, right? So then we get to him again. Now the media's asking him questions about the list. He's giving them how he feels, but that leads to the Jodeci freestyle. And then we get Kendrick's response to the Jodeci freestyle and all the comments I just talked about in the Control verse. So now we understand what the Control verse was really about. It was about these comments and these records. J. Cole and Drake have collaborated 4 times. 3 of those 4 times can be seen as diss records towards Kendrick Lamar or some shade towards Kendrick Lamar. Now we have In the Morning, which was released in 2010. Before all this, we have the Jodeci freestyle, which is directly addressing Kendrick's position on the list and the list as a whole. And they're not liking their positions on the list. J. Cole was left completely off the list. He thought it was crazy, right? Then we have First Person Shooter. Everybody knows this is pretty much the beginning of the battle, and this is why it was the beginning of the battle, right? The last time these two got together was Jodeci freestyle, which they are taking shots at Kendrick being number 1 on this list. Then you have Evil Ways. More shots and shade at Kendrick Lamar, which also is a forgotten track that led to Kendrick responding and like that. So now we just gonna get into lyrical breakdowns of these first 2 records, 5 a.m. in Toronto and Jodeci freestyle, so we can get real context as to what led to Kendrick and Drake being at odds with each other and how that MTV 2013 list was really the birth of the hater version of Drake and Kendrick Lamar. Let's get into those lyrical breakdowns.